Build a Kingdom. You know, sometimes you just have no choice but to do general maintenance. And since Promo's on the lift and Nightwing's in the other bay, brake job in the driveway. Yeah, this side, ooh, yeah, it's like no pad left. I was gonna say this side, but it's both sides. This side's just before the rivets. That side's on the rivets. A little grindy, making some awful noises. So I didn't have a choice. Got to do a brake job. Luckily, brake jobs are easy. Take the wheel off, take the caliper off, swap the pads out, take this little C-clamp with the old pad, push those two pucks back, reassemble, and you're done. But this week on Build a Kingdom, we're going to try to get the steering in Promo and get that thing down to Don's, because I also have to do a sway bar end link on Stacy's Traverse. And I'd like to finish putting the graphics on my car. That's the plan. Stick around. All right, so literally right after I shut that camera off, I realized that I had the wrong brake pads. Yeah. So my cousin, luckily, was able to run and grab another set of brake pads because my wife wasn't here. I didn't have a vehicle. It was all taken apart in the driveway. So that was cool. Not as cool as when he got back and they were wrong again. So he ran to the auto parts store a third time and got the right brake pads. After that, easy peasy, truck was back together. But off camera during the week, my father did work on this a little bit. He got the steering stop into the driver's side and tie rod and everything on, and this spindle hooked up to the rack. And he put the short shaft with the universal joints on the rack that comes up to the steering box. So some of you, I'm surprised no one actually commented. Nobody asked about the steering stops, which is a surprise. When you do the G6 spindle swap, sometimes, I don't know why or what the difference is, sometimes you have an issue with the axles braking if you go to full stop. So like literally driving around in your driveway, if you go all the way to full stop to like turn the car around like you're test driving, which is how we figured it out. Donnie was doing it with Mama Bear, the first car. It'll break an axle. It must have a little bit more turning radius than it did with the Cobalt spindle or something, and the axle gets bound up and breaks. On the racetrack, you're never touching the steering stops, or you shouldn't be anywhere near them, stock or with the stops that I put in. It's more just like driving around in the pits, driving around at your house where you run into an issue. So we're gonna get moving on this now, get some steering in this car. I'm missing a piece. Sorry about that. Anyways, if you have removed the stock steering column from your car and you still have it, you didn't send it to the scrapyard, you can cut the bottom of the shaft, the steering column off. You get this little spline piece that fits on here. Kind of makes it a little bit easier. So you could weld to this piece and go steering shaft, 3/4 steering shaft, up to your mount, through your steering heim, to your quick release spline and hub for the steering wheel. Or if you're going to run a steering quickener, you can go from this to the coupler that goes to the steering quickener, and then from there on up. Yeah, that just makes it a little bit easier that it fits right over the spline. I usually cut this off. The shaft is so long. I usually cut it off and leave just enough spline to slide this onto down here. That's usually how I do it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get this bolted into the car. We're going to figure out where we want to put this angular and whatnot on the cage. We're going to get the steering into this car. My quick release came in. So we got a quick release hub and spline setup. I've talked about this before. I prefer the spline over the hex. So we got this, and then this is actually the battery box from A&A Manufacturing that I talked about last week. So we're going to weld that up, put that in the trunk too. The battery box, that might not happen in this video because I want to get this car down to Don so we can get started on the seat. So I'm going to try to get the steering in the car so that we can drive it with the steering wheel and roll it back out of the garage and get it up on the trailer easily. Just makes things a lot easier when you don't have to like grab the tires and move them, you know what I mean? So, I actually have one of these already prepped on another coupler. So I'm gonna buzz this up. We're gonna get this stuff in the car. Look at that. Look at it. Did you just look at it? We have steering. Let me show what we got here. As you can see, steering box up to the mount. Whoop, focus, whoop, my hand. So you can see the mount coming in from above there, welded to the cage. I don't know why I painted it black. I had the black out, and I'm gonna have to touch up where I welded it to the cage there. But as you can see, it comes down to the 3/4 Heim joint with the 3/4 shaft. And the quick release, as you can see, I only tacked the spline for the quick release because once we get the seat in here, we may or may not want to move that in or out a couple of inches. So I just tacked it so we can make an adjustment later after we get the seat in here. We kind of got to find that happy place where it's not too far away for the person who's all the way back and not too close for the person who's got to be forward. And then they can still reach the pedals correctly. Yeah, seating position, as I talked about last week, is extremely important. So, but that's in there. We can turn now. So this afternoon, I'm going to load this thing up, take it down to Don's so they can get started on that seat mount. Well, as you can see, my car's back in the shop. I took Promo down to Don's, dropped it off down there so that he could start on the seat. I brought this in here. Well, first I brought my wife's car in here and put a sway bar end link on it, but I didn't show you that. And then I pulled this in here, and I didn't turn the time lapse on so you could watch me put all these decals on. But I did put all the decals on. We are sponsored up now. We got everything. So, I'm going to pull this thing outside quick, do a little walk around, finish off this week's video, give the sponsors some love. Until next time, keep it creative and happy building. Stay tuned for the walk around. See this thing out there in the light. You can get a full view of what we got going on. Like and subscribe. I'm counting on you guys. Get this thing up in the algorithm, man.